My next guest was supposed to fight TJ Dillashaw next Saturday in the main event of UFC Fight Night. Unfortunately, that will not take place. It's going to happen a little bit later. We'll talk about that in a sec, but I got Cory Sandhagen back here on the program. Cory, how's it going?
Good, James. How are you?
Doing well. I like the positive attitude. I know a bit of a bummer not getting to fight next Saturday. I wanted to start first with, when did you find out about Dillashaw being out of the fight? Because I know obviously you would probably find out a little bit sooner than we would.
I think I only found out maybe a day before you guys did. I found out on Monday. They just told me that he was out because he had a cut, and that was pretty much all that they told me. And then I was like, okay, well, I know June has a couple main events open, and then they told me June doesn't have any main events open, and then so now we're shooting for July.
Gotcha. Okay, so obviously, and it could be Fight Night, pay-per-view, we don't really know as far as the date, but you're just hearing July in general, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Was there ever a talk of a replacement? I mean, I wouldn't think so, just because of how big this fight is for the division.
Yeah, they offered me Munoz, but I'm just gonna wait for Dillashaw, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair decision to make, and it's only a couple months pushed back, so no problem.
Well, also, I think with your two wins and sort of your ranking and all that, it is probably better to fight Dillashaw. Plus, I mean, there's some history there. I think people wanted to see this fight, right, with the fact that you guys used to train together.
Yeah, I think that too, but I also think it's a really exciting fight. Even, I don't really know how many people know that we did used to train together. I guess it kind of is swirling around there, but I think that is just a really interesting fight. I think that you kind of have TJ, who's like the former champ, against the guy who, I think unarguably should be fighting for the title next now. And, that's pretty exciting, I think.
Gotcha. There's a tweet your teammate had. I just want to read it and just get your thoughts on it, because I don't really know exactly what it means, but you know who I'm talking about, right? Justin Wetzel. He had the tweet. He says, hashtag desperate TJ must have not liked what he's seen on tape, and he needs more time. He is pushing the fight back to June because of a cut sustained in training. Is that just him? Like what's the story there? Because I think he used to train with TJ as well, right? Or something, or what happened?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Wetz was on the team during that time too.
Gamesmanship, is that sort of what it is here?
Gamesmanship, yeah. I think Wetzel's, he's just my boy, so he's just he cares. I think that we're all me and Wetzel are really close training partners, so I think that we all just we care a lot about each other, and yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad cut, though. I mean, at least Dillashaw posted the photos right on the eye and all that. A little bit unfortunate what sort of took place. I know you're disappointed, but at least you can see the photo evidence. It's not something, it's not like a pro wrestling trick where you use like the blade to like get out of the fight, so.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't have any speculation of whether or not he's cut, and speculation is kind of sometimes just a waste of energy in general, so I try not to do that as often as I can anyways, but yeah, whatever, man. He got a cut. It happens, and it's not like I was going to fight for the belt anytime soon anyways, so Sterling and Janssen have to have their rematch, so either way, I was looking at like a year till I fought anyway, so if, it gets pushed back a couple months, what does that really matter in a year's time anyways?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. How have you adjusted training then? Because like I said, you were supposed to fight next Saturday, so now, we're looking at July. Do you take time off? Do you sort of readjust? How do you go about that? I'm just curious. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a fighter.
Yeah, so usually it's at least twice a day that I'm training, usually 3 times a day. I think it's 3 days, 3 or 4 days of the week, but yeah, so I'll just do either 1 or 2 practices a day. That's usually what I do when I'm out of camp. That way, I'm not being a slob or whatever, and letting life get out of control. So, yeah, so it'll just be that. So I won't be dead tired, and I won't be cutting weight and stuff as much, which will be nice, I suppose. And then I'll start my 10-week camp here in a couple weeks, and then that'll be it.
It's never easy to readjust for a situation like this, but one of the things you talked about even on the Joe Rogan podcast was that you've really worked on things sort of mentally and sort of your outlook on stuff. Does, a situation like this, do you feel like you're more prepared for it than, say, maybe a couple of years ago? I mean, a lot of people would be really pissed off and whatever with a big fight like this falling out, but it seems like you've sort of matured in that area. Is that accurate at all, or am I just talking nonsense here?
No, I think that you're really accurate. Actually, I was really surprised by the response that I had towards the fight getting moved, because it was kind of like, all right, that kind of stuff happens, whatever, where I remember, in the past it was a big hit to stuff. And, so, yeah, it's not like that anymore. I think changed a lot in the way that, I think that I'm really in this for the long haul. So if it means that this happens again in July, then okay. So we'll just, I'll just keep training and keep getting better, and I think I'm just way more lasered in, you know, so I don't make plans after any of my fights. I don't even really like to talk about any dates of anything after my fights now.
I know, we did our interview. I tried to get something out of you, and you were keeping it close to the vest, so, you know.
Yeah, nothing, man. I don't plan anything because I don't really want, if a fight does get pulled or whatever, or if I'm really hurt afterwards or whatever, I don't want to be, you know, upset about that, so I don't set myself up for that type of, you know, suffering. So I just kind of, okay, the fight's getting moved, that's fine. If I got to do this every single day of my life, then I'll do it that way, and that's kind of where my headspace is. So if it gets moved, it gets moved.
How was it going on Joe Rogan's podcast? It's cool for me because, you know, we've been doing interviews for years, even before you were in the UFC, and now to see you on a big platform like Joe Rogan's, and I listened to the whole thing. It was fascinating. I really enjoyed it. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was good. I was obviously really flattered that Joe Rogan asked me to do that. I don't listen to too many podcasts anymore, but Joe Rogan used to be one of my favorite podcasts when I was listening to it, of course. Yeah, it was flattering, man. Like, I was actually really surprised that he asked me. I didn't think that I had that level of name. But I was just really flattered, and the show was nice. It was just a cool experience, man. Like one of those check mark things, you know, I got to check that off of the box, and then, it's cool. Really, all I give a shit about, though, man, is like winning a world title, man. So like every time someone kind of asks me about like, oh, was it cool meeting Joe Rogan? Was it cool doing this? Was it cool doing that? It's like all of those things are really cool, man. But I'm in this, you know, to win world titles and stuff. So while all of those things are really cool, they're kind of like, they're not really what I want. You know?
The title's the big thing.
Yeah.
By the way, missed opportunity to say you enjoy doing my show more, but that's fine. It's all good. No, I'm only kidding, obviously. No, but was that set up through your management? Because I know with VaynerMedia, they have a lot of connections. Was that through them, or was that something where Joe reached out to you personally? Like, how did that come together?
Yeah, so he reached out to me on Instagram. He just DM'd me. He said, "Hey, man, you want to do a podcast in a couple weeks?" I said, "Actually, I'm busy, so I can't." And
played hard to get with Joe Rogan. That's great.
Yeah. And then obviously I was like, "Yeah, man, of course, dude. This is like that's a huge moment for people, you know. I know that it's kind of there. Like I was talking to, because I was on Theo Von's podcast also, and I kind of was like, hey, man, like what is your championship belt? You know, like what is that in the comedy world? And he was like, being on Joe Rogan's show. And I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, that is a really big deal, you know, and that's cool. You know, it's not my championship belt, but it's definitely really, really flattering, and I'm really grateful that he asked me to do that.
I didn't even know you were on Theo's show. I got to go back and listen to that one. That's good. He didn't ask you if you killed would you kill anyone? Did you remember that with Poirier? Did you see that clip? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
So he like point blank asked Dustin Poirier. He's like, "Would you ever want to kill someone in the octagon?" And like Poirier's like taken aback, and he's kind of like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "No."
Yeah, I love that guy for that reason. You know,
he's awesome. I had the chance. I think I might have told you the story. I saw him do stand up one time, but he was on mushrooms, so his set was just terrible. I was like hyping him up to my wife. Like we were in California, we went to the Comedy Store, and I was like, trust me, Theo Von, this guy's great. And he was terrible because he was on mushrooms, and I only knew he was on mushrooms because I listened to Joey Diaz's podcast like a week later and found out that was the podcast he did where Joey gave him mushrooms, and then he went on and did this terrible set. So there you go.
Man, I mean, you go to a fair amount of comedy shows, you're bound, I mean, you're gonna run into a lot of
course. No, it was fine. It was fine. It was the cheap night too. It was like Tuesday, so you pay like, I think it's like $10 and you see all these big names on like a Tuesday night because they're working out the material, right? So
nice.
We haven't spoken since the whole Petr Yan Aljamain Sterling thing. I just wanted to get sort of your take on what unfolded and sort of the backlash that's happened after that. Like, as a fellow bantamweight and someone who's fought Aljo, what did you think of the whole situation?
I thought, well, I was kind of watching the fight just from a strategic standpoint, understanding that these are two guys that I'm probably going to fight again. So I watched it with that point of view. I thought that they both showed a lot of things that I think I can really take advantage of when I go to fight them. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of number one. As far as the fight kind of in general, I thought it kind of just had like a little bit of an awkward feel to it. I don't really necessarily know why, but it wasn't like a smooth, you know, type of championship fight that I feel like you're kind of used to seeing. It didn't feel like that to me. And then the way that it ended was just kind of, you know, really silly. Like, you definitely can't just flagrantly knee someone in the face like that and, you know, get your belt, you know? So, I thought the whole thing was just really awkward. I thought the way that it ended was awkward. I think that the way Sterling's handling it is really awkward. And I think, I'm really excited to fight both of those guys in the future and, take that thing for myself.
Do you think this whole thing could have been avoided if they just made the title vacant? Because Jan did something wrong, clearly. I mean, it was an illegal knee. Aljo, it's not his fault he took the knee. And then, people are accusing him of acting and all this other stuff or whatever. And I know obviously didn't help after the fact when, he's taking photos with the belt. Obviously, you're going to get fans against you. But do you feel like this whole thing could have been avoided in those situations where, let's say someone does something wrong in the case of Jan, the title's vacant, kind of like when Davis and Figueiredo missed weight against Benavidez, they made the title vacant. Do you think that would have solved things or like make things less awkward, kind of like in your wording there?
Yeah, I think it would make them a little less awkward, I guess. That's a good way to phrase that question. I think it definitely would make things less awkward. At the same time, though, we have to operate inside of this rule set in MMA, and if you're going to, operate outside of that rule set, it's kind of considered, just illegal stuff. Like you're not allowed to do certain things, and if you're going to do the certain things, then they should come with some heavy consequences. And Jan's heavy consequence that he got to lose the world title that he worked really hard to gain, and that's kind of what he gets for not thinking, or maybe he was thinking and it was really flagrant. I don't know. But yeah, man, I mean, everything you get a consequence for your bad decisions, and that was a bad decision.
Yeah, no, the whole thing, yeah, like you said, awkward, I think is a perfect word to describe it because everyone's kind of mixed and, yeah, the whole thing's crazy. And then now, of course, Aljamain Sterling getting surgery, so he's going to be out for a while. Do you think there should be an interim title just with the fact that he's going to be out for a bit and the way things ended? Do you think that's something they should look into?
If it benefits me.
Well, no, but I just think in general, like, let's say he's out 9 months, right? That's a long time to be away from the cage and not defend the title. And if you got Jan sort of waiting there, I mean, just hypothetically speaking, I was thinking, like, if they did do an interim title, you could have Jan fight, say, the winner of your fight, in terms of, what could happen. I know there's Garbrandt and Font, but I would think that you and Dillashaw would be a bit ahead of them if we're looking at things.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think I guess it kind of depends on how long he's out, which is something that we kind of don't know. I don't really know anything about neck surgeries, but for me, it's kind of hard to believe that you can have a neck surgery and then fight 6 months later. That seems pretty intense. So I don't know really the play there. I don't know if he's trying to hang on to it, so he's given a shorter timeline, or I know nothing about medical anything, so I don't really know if that is something that you can bounce back from in 6 months or whatever. I don't know. I would honestly, I would like to have the UFC kind of come up with a little bit more of a concrete way of deciding these things. I think that would make things easier to where it's like, okay, if you're not going to fight again and try to keep your belt or whatever, or fight for the belt, and you can't defend it within a certain amount of range, then I think that it's completely fair to vacate it. You have a lot of guys in this sport. It's not like boxing. You have a ton of guys in this sport, and you only have a short window. So it's kind of a huge bummer if you have this huge life goal and it keeps getting pushed back and back and back because of injury. And I'm not necessarily talking so much about our division, although I suppose that could be the case. I guess we'll see, but it definitely has been the case in the past, and I've seen that kind of just be a bummer for people,
Yeah.
So I think 9 months to a year. I think if you can't defend that thing, then it's okay. Just vacate it and then fight for it when the other two fight. I don't really see an issue with that. So I would like to see some more concrete regulations on something like that. I think that would just make things a lot easier on everyone.
Yeah, and I think we're still, like you said, waiting to see how long he actually is out, and then you've obviously got Jan in this whole thing, because I think that's, obviously they want to do the rematch because of what happened, which would make sense there. In some ways, does that make the Dillashaw fight being moved not as bad, because obviously there's still no clarity on what's going on at the top of the division, right? So it's not like, you know what's going to happen next with the title, right? Because it looks like they're going to do the rematch.
Yep, 100%. I think that they should do a rematch too. I'm not going to pick any bones about that. I think that they should have a rematch. After their fight, if Sterling can't come back in 6 months or 9 months or whatever he said, I'm looking at a pretty long layoff after this anyways. So if it's pushed back a couple months, and I'm not going to fight anyways for at least 12 months or 14 months. And, what's the big deal there?
For sure. So you're saying you want to lay off after this Dillashaw fight if it is in July. You want to take some extended time off is what you're saying?
I don't know who else I would really fight. I think after that, I've definitely put my stamp on me being the next one that fights for the title.
Well, for sure. I think most people think that the winner of this fight would fight for the title, or the winner of Jan and Sterling. Have you been given that indication? Because it seems that way if Dillashaw, the former champ, is now fighting you.
Yep, I was told that this is the number one contender
go.
spot. And
solve the puzzle.
Yep. So
okay.
That's what I was told.
Okay. So again, looks like you're still fighting Dillashaw. Again, nothing signed, pen to paper. Obviously, the injury happened recently. How was camp leading into this fight? Like, was there anything different? Were you working with the same guys? What was camp like leading into this?
Yeah, camp was pretty, normal, I suppose. I am always working on different stuff. Obviously, I think that this is the most technical sport in the world. So you have to be up to date with your skills and your techniques and stuff. And I try to be a little bit ahead of everyone. I think that I really try to bring in that advantage when I'm fighting, just because these guys are really, really good. So I kind of have to know more than them. So I'm always working on new stuff. I'm always working on new stuff. So every time I kind of go into a fight, I kind of have to pull back on those types of things in maybe like the last 3 or 4 weeks or so that I'm not kind of a little bit too thinky about the things that I'm trying to do, and just trying to kind of like let my body do what my body's supposed to do. So I'm kind of always at that point. So, and that's kind of what makes this even a little bit less of a blow, is it's like, okay, I was working on all of these things that I really, really want to get good at.
And now you got more time to do it.
And now I have a little bit more time to do it. At the same time, I think that I'm just going to find some more things that I'm going to probably want to be really good at. So when it does come fight time, I think that I'll still kind of be stuck in that space of like, all right, make sure that we're not overdoing it with what we're trying to do or whatever. But that's just me. So, I don't mind, man. As long as I keep my focus on getting better every day, I usually have a pretty peaceful, clear mind.
Style-wise, how do you look at this fight? And there's sort of a two-part to that question. How do you prepare for a Dillashaw? Because we haven't seen him in 2 years. I know you've trained with him, but we could be seeing a different Dillashaw in the cage come July just because of the layoff.
Yeah, I think that that's really fair. I anticipate, I try not to look too much, honestly, at their technical abilities. Obviously, TJ has really good footwork. He hits pretty good, and he's very, very well rounded. Very good wrestler also, and very good grappler too. So, but all of that aside, I kind of get to know TJ a little bit more in depth, which I think is super important when you're fighting someone, is to kind of know who they are as a person also. So, and that's kind of up to question also, whether or not he's kind of the same dude or he's not in this one too. So I guess to answer your question, I don't really know what he's going to be, but it's hard for me to imagine that a lot of his same tendencies are going to be different, and maybe his techniques are much different, but I don't think that his aggressive way of fighting is going to be any different. I think that that's still going to be a thing. And I think that he's still going to bring a lot of the same qualities that he brought in before, which is good footwork, good wrestling, good grappling. It's hard for me to imagine him being, light years and light years ahead of where he was, especially having the 2 shoulder surgeries that he had to have while he was out. That's kind of the way that I feel about that, is that he's still going to be the aggressive TJ that TJ is, and it might come with some new skills, or it might not. And that's, as long as I feel like I'm prepared for that kind of aggressiveness, I think that I'll do really well.
I'm sure you saw UFC 261 last weekend, who's Kamaru Usmans, who's kind of like a part of your team now. What did you think of that performance against Masvidal, finishing him in the second round? That was pretty incredible.
Yeah, incredible. Huge. Rose too.
Yeah, Rose as well, of course. Yes, two big teammates getting the win.
Yeah,
there,
so. I remember texting Trevor. I was like, man, I know you're not the type of guy to take a lot of credit, but you got to be really proud of yourself. Kamaru knocked him out bad, man, and Masvidal has never been knocked out like that. And man, Kamaru is an incredible performer, man. Like, I think that you could throw a lot of things around of like who Kamaru is. He's obviously a really great wrestler. He's obviously a lot of other things too. But I think when it comes to like fight night showing up, I think that Kamaru is one of the best to do it.
Yeah. I'm with you there. How much do you get to work with him and Rose in the gym? Because I know they're kind of like, obviously different weight class, and I know they're sort of in and out. But do you get to work with them much, or at least talk to them, strategy, things like that?
Not too much with Rose. Rose is a really quiet person, and I'm kind of a pretty reserved person myself. So,
understandable.
I only kind of get the pleasure of watching Rose spar when she does come to the gym. She's obviously not there as much as someone who is actually on the team, of course. But Rose is just a real pleasure to watch. I like listening to her interviews just to hear how she thinks and stuff. And then Kamaru, me and Kamaru are pretty friendly too. I would call him my friend. He's extended his hand to me to try to help me out with some of the stuff. Sometimes he'll coach me during some of my rounds and stuff. So, I can appreciate that from him. But yeah, me and Kamaru are pretty friendly, and then me and Rose are kind of both reserved and kind of cross paths every once in a while.
So you deactivated your Facebook. Any reason for that?
I just don't want to. I don't ever use it, and then two, I just
it's a waste of time, right?
I don't know.
A lot of the
do
social media.
people still use Facebook?
I just post my content on there just because I have a friends list and it's whatever. But I'm with you. Like Facebook used to be like family photos and stuff. I don't even do that now. It's just more of posting like content for me, anyways. But I don't really post anything like political or anything like that on there. I just leave. I never put anything political on social media. That's the smart thing to do. You just keep away from that. You'll be fine. So
yeah, I agree with you there. I think people are judging people a lot because of their political.
Not even just political stuff, just any opinion. People are, we live in this like bully mentality where, hey, you're wrong. Like there's no, not to get on a rant here, but like there's no people like trying to help people and educate them. It's about, I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. And if you don't agree with me, I'm going to bully you. And it's like, I don't like that. So I just stay out of it.
It's a bit of a strange culture in the internet world of that. It's also kind of weird to watch it happening. Like sometimes when I'm even on my Instagram scrolling, I'm just like, what are these people doing?
I know. It's crazy. Well, Neil Magny, who you train with, I was talking to him. We did an interview this week. I go on his Instagram because I was like, oh, maybe there's something interesting he's done. I looked on one of his photos. There's all these Chimaev fans saying, you're scared of Chimaev. It's like, who has time to do this? It's crazy. So,
yeah.
It's we live in a weird world. Speaking of weird, did you watch Ben Askren, Jake Paul? Did you see the highlight? I,
of course, saw the highlight. Yeah, that was... Yeah, another weird thing to have happen, man. Like this guy is kind of, this Jake Paul guy. He's in everyone's mouth now. And it's like it's crazy to me to even see it happening. Good for him, I guess. But I want to see him fight someone his own size. He keeps calling out like 55ers and 70-pounders, and I think that fight was at 190. I would really love to watch him fight someone in the UFC that's more his size because. Size is a thing, the bigger you are, the better your chances are at winning in combat.
And the power too, right? If you're a bigger guy, you can pack a bit more of a punch, as we've seen. So that makes sense too. Yeah. Okay, my last question. I know we're going way over time. What's downtime looking like? Again, this fight's off a bit, so I'm sure you get a bit more time. I know you like going hiking and all that stuff. Like what's sort of on the Cory Sandhagen downtime agenda these days?
Yeah, I actually texted my mountain guy who I usually go hiking with, who kind of knows what's going on up in the mountains. I think that there's still going to be a good amount of snow up there, probably all the way up until at least mid-June. But I'm going rafting next weekend.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
Really excited about that. Yep. So I'm going to do that for my buddy's bachelor party. So we're going to go rafting. I'm going to try to get up next week and then maybe even the week after that if there's not too much snow up there. And then yeah, but it's been really hot here, so I think that the water levels are going to be super high next week. So I think that rafting is going to be pretty crazy. So I'm excited about that.
See, I did rafting as a kid when I here growing up in BC. We went up to Whistler, and I didn't like it because the rapids were kind of just like boring. Like I wanted like action. I wanted to to get my money's worth. So I did rafting in Costa Rica for my honeymoon, and it was amazing. And to me, you got to have a bit of some rough patches just to make it interesting. Because if it's just a straight sort of down and out, I don't know. It's kind of boring for me. Are you the same way, or do you like it's sort of nice and steady?
Oh, no, I'm the same. So, I'm sure that but you have the instructor or whatever guy that sits in the back and tells everyone when to row, left side, right side, whatever, who's supposed to row, and forward, backwards, whatever. But Man, if it's a little bit boring, I'll maybe row the other way so that, we kind of throw ourselves into something.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, man, it's I've been on some rafting trips where we've been with like my older set of family, like probably 55 at the time, maybe my aunt and uncle, 55-ish. And yeah, we almost tipped on one of those things. I was like, what were we thinking, man? Like these people would for sure, if they fall out of the boat, they don't, their odds are not that great in the rapids that we were in. So, yeah, I like it more like that, but I'm not taking any more family members that are, can't.
No, that could be a risk. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry about them. Cory, thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. Again, sorry to hear about the fight. Hopefully we get a date lined up here soon in July, but that's good. At least they're trying to rebook the fight. Anyone you want to thank? Any sponsors? Any social media you want to plug? I'll give you the last word.
Nope, just watch my fights. That's all that I ask. Just watch my fights.